Today, in preparation for Thanksgiving, which, by the way, is only 3.5 weeks away, we are launching into a brand new 4-week sermon series entitled Minimalism. Minimalism. Whether you realize it or not, right now we are in the middle of a minimalism movement. This is becoming the new thing. People are getting rid of stuff that they don't need. People are selling their vehicles and opting for Uber or public transportation. People are selling their houses. Some are even getting crazy in building tiny houses. I'm behind this movement for the most part, but I will never understand tiny houses. Someone told me a couple years ago that Facebook is the #1 cause of divorce. If people keep building tiny houses, mark my words, 10 years from now, tiny houses will be the #1 cause of divorce. I love my wife, I love my children, but there's absolutely no way we could keep our sanity in 400 square feet. But the idea behind this minimalism movement, the idea behind this sermon series is that sometimes less is actually more. Here's how we're going to define minimalism over the next 4 weeks. You're going to hear me say this several times. Minimalism is consciously stripping away the unnecessary things in my life to make room for God's best. Minimalism is consciously stripping away the unnecessary things in my life to make room for God's best. If you're taking notes here in week 1, I've entitled our first message, Less Stuff, More Happiness. Less stuff, more happiness. Now I want to get started today by showing you what it looks like when my wife and I go away on an overnight trip. This is how my wife Molly packs. I'm not sure why she needs a suitcase for every hour that we'll be away. I'm not sure why she needs 12 pairs of shoes and 34 outfits for one night away from home. I'm not sure why she needs every toiletry product in the house. But I've been married long enough, it's best to not ask questions. I'm not good at very much, but God has blessed me with one very special talent, and that is packing a vehicle. We have a small SUV, not a lot of trunk space, so it takes a lot of skill to get all of this into that small trunk. Men, some of you know what I'm talking about. It takes 3 hours to strategically put this puzzle together. You get done, you're drenched in sweat. You're repenting for all the bad words you said in your head. You get in the car, you start on your trip. And before I get out of the neighborhood, it never fails, my wife Molly leans over to me and she says, "Sean, I hope we didn't forget this. I hope we didn't leave this at home." I quickly calm her down. "Baby, the only thing we left at home is the kitchen cabinets. Let's keep going on our trip." So this is how my wife packs for an overnight trip. Me, on the other hand, this is how I pack for an overnight trip. As a matter of fact, this is my bag of choice unless I'm going away for somewhere longer than 2 weeks. So 2 weeks or less, this is what I'm traveling with. There's a couple reasons for this. The first reason, if I'm traveling with my wife, this is the only thing I can get in the vehicle. The second reason, when I'm traveling, I don't like keeping up with 1,001 things. In this bag, everything has its place. I can find it very quickly. I can throw this on my back. I'm good to go. I can quickly move from place to place. If I forget something, no big deal. Unless we're traveling to an extremely remote place, I can pick up toothpaste or deodorant or whatever else I need on the way. So, my wife, I love her. Yes, I will get in trouble when we get home. She travels with a surplus. Me, on the other hand, I travel with the bare essentials. But here's the thing. I think this is not only a good visual for how my wife and I travel overnight, I think this is a good visual for how many of us live our lives. You see, very few of us live with the bare essentials, and I'm preaching to myself. Most of us live our lives with a surplus. We're constantly in pursuit of more. Statistics tell us this. There are 300,000 items in the average American home. The average size of the American home has nearly tripled in size over the past 50 years. The United States has an upward of 50,000 storage facilities, and shopping malls outnumber high schools. The average 10-year-old owns 238 toys but plays with just 12 daily. The average American woman owns 30 outfits, one for every day of the month. In 1930, that figure was 9. Our homes have more television sets than people. We consume twice as many material goods today as we did 50 years ago. Americans spend more on shoes, jewelry, and watches than on higher education. Women will spend more than 8 years of their lives shopping. Over the course of our lifetime, we spent a total of 3,680 hours or 153 days searching for misplaced items. Americans spend $1.2 trillion annually on non-essential goods. In other words, items they do not need. I think these statistics prove that most of us think more stuff is what will enable us to enjoy and live life to the fullest. If I can just have the nicest vehicle, if I can just have the biggest house, if I can just have the best clothes, if I can just have the highest quality furniture, these are the things that will enable me to enjoy and live life to the fullest. That's what we think. But the Bible teaches us otherwise. The Bible teaches us that stuff actually keeps us and prevents us from living and enjoying life to the fullest. And today I want to give you 3 reasons why. 3 reasons why stuff prevents us from enjoying and living life to the fullest. The first reason, number 1, excess stuff leads to excess stress. Excess stuff leads to excess stress. Jesus tells us this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 and 20. Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. So Jesus is saying, look, don't exert all of your efforts storing up stuff here on earth. The cars, the houses, the clothes, it's all temporary. It can be taken away in an instant. It could be destroyed by fire or some other disaster. Someone could steal it. Or God forbid, something could happen to you that would prevent you from enjoying the things that you worked your entire life to acquire. Don't store up treasures here on earth. Instead, store up treasure in heaven where it can't be destroyed or taken away. Right after this, Jesus goes on to teach about stress, worry, and anxiety. So Jesus teaches about stuff, and then he goes on and he teaches about stress, worry, and anxiety. This isn't a coincidence. This is a connection. Excess stuff leads to excess stress. And here's why. Everything we own requires time, money, energy, and focus to maintain. Everything we own requires time, money, energy, and focus to maintain. Raise your hand if you own a vehicle. Okay, most of us own vehicles. We own 2 vehicles. Guess what? Vehicles need to be washed. They need their oil changed. Stuff needs to be maintained. Stuff breaks down. My favorite part, you always need tires when it's most inconvenient. If you have a loan on a vehicle, you have to work hard every month to come up with that payment. How many of you own a home? Raise your hand. Okay, again, several of us. I love our house. I think it's the perfect setup for me and my family. But I have a lot of grass to cut. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be maintained. My kids break things faster than I can fix them. This is no exaggeration. Every single day, I'm doing something around the house. Every month, we plan our budget, and we always put money in there, not just for our mortgage, taxes, and insurance, but for repairs and improvements. Everything we own requires time, money, energy, and focus to maintain. And this leads to stress, worry, and anxiety in our lives. When I graduated high school, I decided to reward myself. When I graduated college, I decided to reward myself. I went out, I bought myself a brand new truck. Now, I loved this truck. It was the vehicle of my dreams, but this truck made me extremely paranoid. I was parking in the way back of the parking lot. I was walking a quarter mile to get into Walmart. I didn't want a stray buggy to run into my truck. I didn't want some kid that wasn't paying attention to open the door and to slam it into the side of my truck. I was washing the thing twice a day. I was changing the oil every 300 miles. I was paranoid. And I remember one day, one of my sisters asked me, she said, "Sean, I'm moving and I need someone with a truck to help me. Would you help me?" Now, I had never put anything in the bed of this truck, and I had no plans to ever put anything in the bed of this truck, but this particular sister is extremely persuasive. She said, "Sean, nothing is going to happen to your precious truck." So I broke down. I agreed to help her. We were loading her bed onto the bed of my truck. And she took one of those long bed rails and went to swing it over the tailgate and to put it into the bed of the truck. But when she went to swing it, she missed. She hit my tailgate. And not only did she hit my tailgate, but she dinged my tailgate. Top 5 angriest moments of my life. 5 years later, it still makes my blood boil just thinking about it. I was this close to disowning my sister for damaging my truck. I went on to get that truck in more accidents than I can count before finally coming to my senses. This is a great truck. This is a nice truck, but it's more trouble than it's worth. It's not all that I thought it was going to be. You see, I thought it would complete me. I thought it would bring me joy, satisfaction, and happiness. But it was actually robbing me of joy, happiness, and satisfaction by adding stress, worry, anxiety, and paranoia to my life. So I sold that truck, and I bought the truck that I currently have for a third of the price. My truck now is 12, almost 13 years old. It has 160,000 miles on it. It's a nice truck. I try to take good care of it. But if I get a ding or a scratch on it, no big deal. If it breaks down, no big deal. I take it to the shop. I let the mechanic fix it. I pay for it with all the money I'm saving by not having a payment. Here's the point. I got rid of a big, expensive, nice, luxurious possession from my life, and by doing so, I lowered my stress levels and improved my quality of life. How does stuff prevent us from living and enjoying life to the fullest? Number 1, excess stuff leads to excess stress. Number 2, excess stuff leads to excess waste. Excess stuff leads to excess waste. According to Tech Insider, here's how much the average American household wastes each month. 283 kilowatt hours of energy. That's like an electric oven running at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 full days. 551 pounds of recyclables. That's about 28 and a half reams of office paper. 1,048 pounds of trash. That's roughly the weight of a grand piano. 2,500 gallons of water. That's equal to 83 baths. 37,470 calories. That could feed another person for 19 days. This is sad, but it's true. We're leaving our lights on all day long, and there's people around the world that don't have shelter to sleep underneath. We're taking showers for 20 minutes. There's people around the world that don't have clean drinking water. We have 15 coats in our closet, and there's people around the world that are freezing to death. We're throwing away pounds and pounds of food while people around the world are starving. There's no way around it. As Americans, we are the most wasteful people on the planet. Luke chapter 3, verse 11 says, "Whoever has 2 tunics, whoever has 2 coats is to share with him who has none. And whoever has food is to do likewise." 2 years ago, Molly and I bought a new house. Of course, I was too cheap to pay a moving company to move us. So me and my father-in-law, we got a pickup truck and a trailer. We made several trips back and forth. We would go to the old house, we would load it up. We would go to the new house, we would unload everything into the garage, and then we would go back and get another load. By the time we finished moving, our garage was jam-packed full of stuff. We moved into the house, we slowly unloaded the garage and brought things inside. I guess I should say very, very slowly, because here we are 2 years later and our garage is still jam-slam full of stuff. You can't walk through it. I'm embarrassed to admit this. But as I was thinking about, and as I was preparing to teach this series, I started thinking about how pathetic that is. Not just because we have a mess, not just because it's disorganized, not just because I can't ever find any of my tools, but because there are things of value wasting away in my garage. Things that could be sold for money, things that could be used to help other people. If I haven't used it in 2 years, I don't need it and I'm not going to miss it. Some of you could clean out your attic and literally change the trajectory of someone's life. There's things of value up there that could be sold for money, and that money could be used to help someone in need. Some of you, just like me, you could clean out your garage, and you could donate the items to the church yard sale, or you could give them to a family in need. Some of you could clean out your closet and keep an entire family warm this winter. Some of you could go through your pantry, and just with the excess, you could feed someone for the next several weeks. God has blessed most of us with excess resources. 99%, probably 100% of the people in this room, including myself, you have things at home that you don't use. You keep telling yourself, oh, that will come in handy one day. It's taking up space. It's collecting dust. It might even be getting destroyed by mice. God has blessed you with excess resources. Why not use it for the kingdom? Why not reduce your stress levels and your anxiety while helping someone at the same time? There are people out there that could be genuinely helped with our excess resources. How is stuff preventing us from living and enjoying life to the fullest? Number one, excess stuff leads to excess stress. Number two, excess stuff leads to excess waste. And number three, excess stuff leads to excess unhappiness. Excess stuff leads to excess unhappiness. We've all heard the saying, money can't buy happiness. But here's the problem. The only people that believe that are the people that actually have money. Most of us think if I had more money, I would be happier. As a matter of fact, how many of you would be honest and by a show of hands, you've had this thought before? If I had more money, if I didn't have to worry about paying bills, if I could buy what I want when I want it, I would be much happier. Anybody? Okay, several of us. We've got some honest people here. None of us believe that saying money can't buy happiness. But I can speak from personal experience. I remember when I was a senior in high school, I used to think this. If I could just come out of high school and land a job that pays $30,000 a year, then I'll be happy. I have no idea where that figure came from. I thought that would be enough to live on. I thought that would be enough to support a family. And then I came out of high school and eventually got a job that paid $30,000 a year. And I was surviving, but I realized, hey, this isn't all I thought it was going to be. $30,000 really isn't that much money. So then I upped that amount. I said, okay, if I can make this amount of money, then I'll be happy. Then I made that amount of money, and guess what? I still wasn't happy. So I said, if I can make this amount of money, then I'll be happy. And you know what? After going through that process a few times, I quickly came to realize no amount of money was going to make me happy because I was always going to want more. I remember at one point in my life, I thought, if I can just get my own place, I'll be happy. And then I got my own place, and I thought, if I can just become a homeowner, then I'll be happy. And then I became a homeowner. I thought, if I can just get a little bit more square footage and a little bit more land, then I'll be happy. Then I got a little bit more square footage and a little bit more land, and guess what? I still wasn't happy. Here's the point. Stuff doesn't make us happy. Sure, it might put a smile on our face temporarily, but stuff will never bring lasting joy, satisfaction, or happiness. We get caught up in this hamster wheel. But you know what a new car will be 2 years from now? A used car that you're upside down in. You know what the latest and greatest cell phone will be 6 months from now? An outdated piece of technology. You know what a new house will be 10 years from now? An old house in desperate need of a renovation. We get caught up in this hamster wheel. We work and we work and we work so we can buy more and more and more. And then we're still not happy, so we do it all over again. This time we work even harder, we buy even more, but we're still not happy. We get caught up in the pursuit of more, and when it's all said and done, we're stressed. We have a bunch of stuff that we don't need, and we're more unhappy than ever before. The Bible says this, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 7 and 8. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. You want to be happy? The formula for happiness is really very simple. Stop pursuing what you don't have and learn to be content with what you do have. Stop pursuing what you don't have and learn to be content with what you do have. There's a reason this minimalism thing has taken off. It's because people are realizing that excess stuff leads to excess unhappiness. How does stuff prevent us from living and enjoying life to the fullest? Number one, excess stuff leads to excess stress. Number two, excess stuff leads to excess waste. And number three, excess stuff leads to excess unhappiness. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying you should go home and put a for sale sign in your front yard. I'm not saying you should sell your vehicles and all of your possessions. There's nothing wrong with having stuff. The point I hope to make in week one is really very simple. Most of us think the answer to happiness is more, but maybe, just maybe, the answer to happiness is actually less. So here's the big application question. This is the question I want all of you to ask yourselves. What unnecessary stuff can I eliminate from my life? What unnecessary stuff can I eliminate from my life? For me, it's the stuff in my garage. I'm going home this week. I'm going to start cleaning my garage out. I might sell some of the stuff. I might give some of the stuff away. I'm definitely donating a lot of the stuff to our church yard sale. For you, it might be the stuff in your attic. It might be the stuff in your closet. It might be the stuff under your bed. It might be the stuff out in your shop or in your shed. For some of you, it might be just like me, the stuff out in your garage. For some of you, this might mean more drastic measures. It might mean selling your house. You have a big house. There's rooms you haven't been in several months. It's time to downsize and get something that fits your life a little bit better. For some of you, it might mean selling a vehicle that's costing you way too much money. You can buy something older and cheaper that serves the exact same purpose. What stuff can I eliminate from my life right now? Answer that question and then eliminate that stuff. What stuff can I eliminate from my life right now? Answer that question and then eliminate that stuff. Here's what I'll leave you with. Minimalism isn't about having less. It's about making room for more of what matters. One more time. Minimalism isn't about having less. It's about making room for more of what matters. Let's stand and sing.